Imagine being 65 years old, broke, and living on a tiny social security check. Most people at that age would quietly retire, believing their best years were long gone. But not Harland Sanders. With nothing but a battered pressure cooker, a handful of spices, and a fiery determination, he set out on a journey that would change the world. This man was rejected more than 1,000 times before someone finally said yes. Yet, the same man's face is now recognized across continents, smiling from the logo of one of the biggest fast food empires in history, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders' life is not just the story of fried chicken. It's the story of resilience, failure, and the unshakable belief that it's never too late to chase your dreams. Harland David Sanders was born on September 9, 1890, in Henryville, Indiana. From the very beginning, life was tough. His family was poor, and when Harland was just 6 years old, tragedy struck. His father passed away. This left his mother to raise 3 children all on her own. While most children his age were outside playing, Harland had to step into adult responsibilities. His mother worked long hours to support the family, which meant young Harland had to cook and care for his siblings. These early cooking lessons were not fancy or luxurious, they were born out of necessity. But they planted the seed of a skill that would one day change his life and the fast food industry forever. Tragedy struck again in his early years. His siblings died at young ages due to illness, leaving Harland as the eldest child and the primary helper for his mother. These hardships were heartbreaking, but they also shaped him. In that tiny kitchen, he learned the value of hard work, responsibility, and perseverance. The skills and resilience he developed in those early years would quietly lay the foundation for a life that would eventually inspire millions. School was not much easier. Harland struggled in class and often clashed with teachers. By the 7th grade, he dropped out entirely. With no formal education and very few options, he began working odd jobs to survive, jobs that rarely lasted long. From the start, Harland Sanders' life was filled with hardship, but those struggles were quietly shaping the grit and resilience he would carry for the rest of his life. After leaving school, Harland Sanders entered the world of work at an age when most children were still in class. But stability never seemed to last long. He jumped from one job to another, trying to find a path that fit him. He worked as a farmhand, laboring in the fields. He became a streetcar conductor, guiding passengers across town. For a time, he worked as a railroad fireman, shoveling coal into engines. But in 1906, at the age of 16, he briefly joined the U.S. Army. Sanders' military career was short-lived. He enlisted in hopes of a stable career and adventure, but he was discharged shortly after due to health problems. Despite this setback, his time in the Army taught him discipline, resilience, and the importance of structure, qualities that would later help him navigate the many challenges of entrepreneurship. Returning to civilian life, Sanders continued his journey through odd jobs, as a lawyer's clerk, insurance salesman, and more. Though he faced repeated failure, each experience added to the determination and resourcefulness that would ultimately define him. Each time, he was forced to start over. Each time, he faced disappointment. But what's striking about Harland Sanders is that he never saw failure as the end. Instead, he kept moving forward, searching for the next opportunity. While to many it looked like a life of instability, these countless experiences shaped him into a resourceful, determined man who understood hard work better than most. The foundation of grit, discipline, and problem-solving that Sanders built during these years would become essential when he finally stumbled upon his true calling. At the time, though, he didn't know that his greatest success was still decades away. By the time Harland Sanders reached his 40s, he had lived many lives: farmer, soldier, fireman, salesman, lawyer, and more. But it was in Corbin, Kentucky, that he finally found a path that combined his work ethic with his childhood passion, cooking. Sanders ran a small service station where he fueled cars and fixed engines for weary travelers passing through town. To make a little extra money, he began cooking meals for customers who stopped by. He didn't have a restaurant, just a modest kitchen and a dining table in the back of his service station. But word began to spread. People didn't just come for the gas anymore, they came for Sanders' fried chicken, country ham, and homemade biscuits. He perfected his cooking, experimenting with seasoning until he created his now famous secret blend of 11 herbs and spices. For the first time, Sanders wasn't just surviving, he was building something. In 1936, the governor of Kentucky even awarded him the honorary title of colonel, recognizing his contribution to the state's cuisine. From that moment, Harland Sanders became known as Colonel Sanders. It looked like success had finally arrived, but life was not finished testing him yet. Just when it seemed Colonel Sanders had finally secured his place in life, disaster struck. His restaurant in Corbin, Kentucky, was thriving. Travelers loved his food, and the future looked bright. But then came a decision that would nearly ruin everything. In the 1950s, the US government built a new interstate highway system. The new road bypassed Corbin, cutting traffic away from Sanders' restaurant. Practically overnight, the steady flow of customers dried up. His once bustling business turned silent. After decades of struggle and finally tasting success, Sanders found himself forced to sell his restaurant at a loss. At 65 years old, he was broke again, living off a $105 monthly Social Security check. Most people at that age would have retired in defeat. But not Colonel Sanders. Instead of giving up, he saw this as the beginning of a new chapter. With nothing but his pressure cooker, his secret recipe, and a car, he hit the road. He knocked on doors of restaurants across America, offering to cook his fried chicken for them. If they liked it, he proposed a simple deal. For every chicken sold, he'd receive a small royalty. What followed would test his determination like never before. He faced rejection after rejection, over 1,000 no's, before finally someone said yes. Armed with nothing but persistence and his secret recipe, Colonel Sanders began traveling from restaurant to restaurant, cooking chicken for owners and their staff. His pitch was simple: if you like it, let's make a deal. Most turned him down. Some laughed at him. Imagine being 65 years old, sleeping in your car, living on meager savings, and hearing no 1,000 times. Most people would have quit. But Sanders believed in his chicken, and more importantly, he believed in himself. Finally, in 1952, while traveling through Salt Lake City, Colonel Sanders met Pete Harmon, a restaurateur struggling to differentiate his business. Harmon owned a popular restaurant but was seeking a unique offering to attract more customers. Recognizing an opportunity, Sanders invited Harmon to dinner and prepared his signature fried chicken. The meal was a hit, and Harmon saw the potential to revitalize his business with this new dish. Inspired by Sanders' recipe and Southern hospitality, Harmon added Kentucky Fried Chicken to his menu. The response was overwhelming, leading to a significant increase in sales. This success marked the beginning of a partnership that would transform the culinary landscape. Harmon became Sanders' first franchisee, paying a royalty for each chicken sold. Their collaboration laid the foundation for what would become a global brand. By the early 1960s, KFC outlets began popping up across the United States. Sanders, with his trademark white suit, black string tie, and warm smile, became the face of the brand. He wasn't just selling chicken, he was selling a story of tradition, flavor, and Southern hospitality. In 1964, at the age of 74, Colonel Sanders sold the rights to KFC for $2 million, an enormous sum at the time. Yet, even after selling, he remained the global ambassador of the company, traveling the world to promote his beloved chicken. The man who once had nothing now had his face on signs and buckets in countries across the globe. His dream had finally taken flight. Even after selling Kentucky Fried Chicken, Colonel Sanders never truly retired. He remained the brand's most powerful symbol, traveling, shaking hands, and appearing in commercials well into his 80s. With his white suit, white hair, and friendly demeanor, he became one of the most recognizable figures in the world. But behind the image was a man who had walked through more hardship than most could imagine: a fatherless child, a school dropout, a man fired from countless jobs, a failed businessman, and a 65-year-old retiree living on Social Security. His story was never about easy success, it was about resilience. Colonel Harland Sanders passed away in 1980 at the age of 90. By then, KFC had grown into a global empire with thousands of restaurants worldwide. His face, immortalized on every bucket of chicken, continues to inspire millions not just to eat, but to believe in second chances. On December 16, 1980, the world said goodbye to Colonel Harland Sanders. He was 90 years old when he passed away in Louisville, Kentucky. His death marked the end of an extraordinary life that began in hardship and ended in global recognition. The funeral reflected just how deeply loved and respected he had become. More than 1,000 people attended, including governors, senators, and business leaders. He was given a funeral at the Kentucky State Capitol Rotunda, an honor reserved for the most distinguished citizens of the state. Colonel Sanders was laid to rest in Louisville's Cave Hill Cemetery, wearing his signature white suit and black string tie, the very image the world had come to know. To this day, his grave remains a place of tribute, visited by admirers from around the world who draw inspiration from his life story. In death, just as in life, Colonel Sanders left behind a powerful message. No matter your age, your failures, or your struggles, it is never too late to rise again and leave your mark on the world. Colonel Harland Sanders' story lives far beyond his lifetime. What began as a small kitchen experiment in Kentucky has become one of the largest fast food empires in the world, with Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants in more than 150 countries. His secret recipe of 11 herbs and spices remains one of the most famous culinary mysteries in history. But Colonel Sanders' true legacy is not just fried chicken, it is the lesson his life teaches. He proved that age is never a barrier to success, that rejection is not the end, and that persistence can turn even the most unlikely dream into reality. He built his empire at an age when most people think of slowing down. He turned rejection into opportunity, and failure into a stepping stone. His white suit, black tie, and warm smile have become symbols of more than a brand. They represent resilience, determination, and the belief that it's never too late to start over. Colonel Sanders is remembered not only as the man who created one of the world's largest fast food chains, but also as proof that it's never too late to chase your dreams. His life is a reminder that failure isn't the end of the road, it's often just the beginning of something greater. Today, every time someone sees the Colonel's face on a bucket of chicken, they're not just looking at a logo. They're looking at a man who refused to give up, a man who turned struggle into success, and a man whose story continues to inspire millions across the world. Colonel Sanders' greatest gift wasn't just his chicken, it was his example of courage, grit, and the unshakable belief in second chances. Colonel Harland Sanders' life teaches us that it is never too late to chase a dream, and that failure is never the end. Rejected over 1,000 times, living on a small social security check at 65, he could have given up, but he didn't. With courage, determination, and an unwavering belief in himself, he turned a simple recipe into a global legacy. Today, every bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken carries more than just food, it carries a story of resilience, hope, and the power of never giving up. Let his journey inspire you. No matter your age, no matter your struggles, your dreams are still within reach. Keep going. Your greatest success may be just ahead. That's the inspirational story of Colonel Sanders. Inspired by Colonel Sanders' story, here on Inspirational People, we share stories just like his, stories of courage, resilience, and triumph over adversity. If you want to be inspired every week, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join our journey of discovering the lives of extraordinary people who refuse to give up.